Hello, welcome to my art course. So it's going to be, this particular one is going to be a still life, and we're going to be looking at objects, proportion, composition. It's going to be really fun. So come along with me. Really happy that you've joined me on this. So let's begin. So we're going to plan it out. So we've got all the objects and I want to concentrate on shape. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a wine bottle or a bottle. So think about where to put this wine bottle. Because it is the tallest thing that we're drawing, we're doing a wine bottle, we're doing a pot, we're doing a cup, and we're doing an orange and a lemon. So the biggest thing in this picture would be the wine bottle. So we're going to do just a rectangle like this for the part of the wine bottle that's the biggest. And then if you find the middle of that, you can then create the bottleneck. So once you've got that, because all we're doing is we're setting up shapes. So we're working out the composition, the position of the objects. So next to it, I would say the tallest would be the vase. So we're going to go, could be any vase, but I'm going to do it for this point of the video. Okay, so that would be my vase. So, and don't worry if it's not exactly the right size, it's okay. We're trying to get it so it's roughly, that's going to be bigger, that's the next biggest thing. And then you've got the cup. Now, if the cup's in front, it would be in the foreground and the bottle would become the background. So we would do this with a different line, but I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So I'm going to position the cup about there. Because it's in front of the bottle, it can go further down because it's moved forward. I'm going to give it a handle. This is very basic, the shapes. You don't need to worry about all of the different cylindrical tops and anything like that for now. Then I'm going to do an orange, quite a large orange. And a lemon. So the lemon and the orange is in front of the vase and the bottle. That is all I'm doing. Now, if you can see, we've got the bottle is the tallest, so that could be in the middle, but at the moment I'm putting it there. So you've kind of almost got a triangle effect, and that's the nicest thing to have when you're doing a still life. So if you're drawing animals, it's not a still life. Think about objects as they don't move, so they're still. And because your eyes are looking at them, you're observing them. So that's why it's called observational drawing. Okay, so now we want to shape it, but what would be really cool is you've got some area around, so you could do the background, or you could just position it so it looks like it's somewhere. So I quite like just doing a line, so you draw it, float over, draw, float over, draw. Now because I'm doing it from the side, it might be slightly slanted mine, but this gives you, it gives you the situation of where it is. So it helps you think, oh, it's on the table. So it wouldn't, the table edge wouldn't be there, it'd be over here because it's the back of the table. So this is the background. Okay, so now we can start shaping the objects. I'm not going to do the thickness and thinness of the line until we shape the objects. But if you think about, let's just say for the sake of the video, that would be in the foreground. If you can't see this, I'll put it on the video, don't worry. So this is going to be the foreground, this line. This line is going to be the background. Oof. So what that means is I'm going to shape the bottle like that. And if you can't shape it parallel, so if you want them the same, the both sides, you could just float this over and you'll know that that goes there. So now you've got that bit of the bottle. Now if you think about the bottle being cylindrical or rounded, the bottle would have like a smile at the end, so you could go, won't draw it on it because you don't see the whole thing. And then that would make the top. The top you might not be able to see because it depends where your line's eye is. So if you're looking straight at it, you wouldn't see the top of the bottle because it's too high. But I'm going to just do the lid. So we can do that, that, maybe just 2 lines, just something different for the bottle. Going to keep it simple. You might see the cup's top. What I mean by that is you could do a little ellipse just to make it look like you can see into the cup. Now, if you do an ellipse, you need the bottom to have the ellipse as well. So you're going to rub out some stuff in a moment. Now here, you might see a tiny bit of the top, not too much. And there's not really much to do for this apart from here. You might have a bit of a smile because it's a rounded object. If something's rounded, you normally see the rounded bit at the bottom. The orange and the lemon, the orange I might just put that just to show that it's an orange. The lemon, I might do this, just to show that that is going to look like the shape of the lemon. Now, you're going to need a rubber now, so get an eraser. I am going to rub out this. So you do not need these pointy bits anymore. And obviously feel free to put a label on the bottle. You could decorate the bottle, you could do whatever you like. So what I'm rubbing out now is all of those guidelines. Because I've got a line there, I could just literally just say that's the line of my water inside it, or the wine, or whatever the bottle is. So I'm keeping this a really super simple observational drawing. Now, because the cup is in front of the bottle, we're going to rub out whatever the bottle is showing, where the cup is. So whatever's inside the cup, and it's to do with the bottle, we rub that out. If you by accident rub stuff out, you can just draw it back in, so don't worry. The orange is in the foreground of the bottle, so we'll rub that out, whatever's in the orange. The vase is in the background, so we rub out. It will start to make sense as I start rubbing out things. We don't need that line anymore because it was the guideline of the bottle, but now we've got the rounded bottom bit. Can you see? Let's rub that out. Now, what do you think we rub out there? Because if something's in the lemon and the lemon's in the foreground, you will rub out whatever's in the lemon. So we'll rub that out. Rub away. I'm going to rub that because then it looks more realistic, my lemon. Can you see? And whatever is in that middle line, we don't need that middle line in here. Ooh, so you'll rub it out. Can you see I'm rubbing out by accident some of the lines, and I'll draw those back in a minute. Okay, so if I look at it now, I've nearly got everything I want. I just want to rub out. Right, okay, so this is my still life drawn in line. So it's all line. I haven't shaded it, I haven't coloured it, but I will be doing a lesson on that. So I'm going to say the lights from here, but it doesn't matter at the moment because we're just doing lines. But when I shade it, it will matter where the light's coming from. So if I just write light, so you can see, and it will be dark all here. So when we do the colour and the shading, you'll understand what I mean. But at the moment, it's just lines. So you can just really decorate this now. You can say to yourself, I'm going to do circles there. Not circles, lines. You could have a label. You could do your name on there. It'd be really, really fun. So the cup could have a design as well. But what I want to do is whatever's in front of us, we're going to do a chunkier line. So you won't need to do this. You just wouldn't press as hard for the background. There's a line I just forgot. It's just here. There you go. Can you see that because it's in front of everything else, it's going to be darker, the line? Or, yeah, it's going to be darker. I'll show you with a pencil if it helps, because obviously doing it with a felt tip doesn't help you see it as clear. And each thing has texture, so I'm going to show you how to do the texture at some point. So if you think about a pencil, so you've got your pencil, haven't you? If this was my bottle, you might not be able to see this. Do you know what? I might just press quite hard. If this is my bottle, I don't think you're going to see it, are you? Let's just say we're doing a pencil, and that's my bottle. Then the lemon inside will be dark, and that's in the front. So whatever's in the front, make it darker. So all you have to do is with a pencil, when you plan everything out, do it lightly, don't press really hard. And then once you've got everything, when you go over these, you're going to press a bit harder. So that is literally my composition. That would be my composition with my foreground objects, because they're in the foreground nearer to you. You've got the background, which are lighter, the lines. And then the perspective is, it's almost as though you're looking into a focus point, which I would say is probably, for me it would be orange, but maybe it would be the bottle for you. So your eye is drawn to something in your picture. That looks really good if you can set it up that way. So there we go, and the proportions are roughly what you need. We can measure it, but at this stage we don't need to. So as long as the bottle's bigger than the other things, then you know you've got it pretty much right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the cross hatching and the shading in pencil, but I'm going to use my felt tip. So see you for that video. Welcome back. So we're going to do shading now, and if you think about cross hatching, it's a little bit like crisscrossing. So it's like kisses. You do it one way and then you do it the other way. So we're going to sort of work out how different shades and tones affect the light that's coming here. So let's pretend the light is coming this way. So what we want to do is work out how many shades that we can use. So let's pretend that we're using black. So black, grey and white. So a shade is a colour, but it's different varieties of that colour. So it's like a dark, medium and light, but it's still the same colour. So I'm just going to do this. It's like a colour swatch, if you like. It's a scale of colour. So I'm just going to use 3 just because it simplifies it. So you can draw this as well if this helps you. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. So the number 1 is going to be my darkest. So it's cross hatching, this is. And you're going to do it in pencil. So that would be my darkest tone or my shade. And then this would be my lighter one. And then you've got your super light one. So I'm only going to do 3, 1, 2, 3, but obviously there's a lot, but I'm going to do 3 for the sake of the video. So it'll be really fun to work out where is the shade, like where is it dark and where is it light. So think about when you're standing in the sun and you'll have a shadow. If the light is shining here, you're going to have a shadow of the mug, you'll have the shadow of an orange, you'll have this shadow as well. It'll probably come about there. It depends if the light is coming this way, as in down or across, to how long the shadow will be. So if the light was coming from here all the way, the shadow might be a bit longer. The more it comes, like if you look at lunchtime and the sun's in the sky, you won't have much shadow because it's directly above you. So if it's an angle, the shadow becomes longer. So not much shadow, more shadow, more shadow, more shadow. So let's start. So we've done the shadows, for example. This would have some shadow as well. And the bottle would have a shadow. So we're just drawing shapes underneath to create a shadow. So now we want to work out where it's light. So for the simple fact that we're doing this video based on shading, we're going to do 1, 2. This is super simple. It's not going to be too detailed. So I would say that all here is really dark because the light doesn't get to it. So I'm just going to do this because it's like crisscrossing, but obviously it's quicker. So if you did that for your shading, and again, you do not need to do cross hatching. You don't need to do crisscross. You could just colour it in normally with the pencil as long as it's dark. So that's my dark one. That's my, let's say that's my number 1. And then you think, right, this is going to be my number 2. So you'll be doing this in pencil. So that means that this is your number 3. So it's the lightest one. If you want, you could do 3, 2, 1, but it's whatever works for you. Now, if you've got something here where it's, I don't know, say you've got a lip, that maybe that much could be number 3. And like if you've got something different from the surface, so not all of it, if the object's kind of got different angles to it, not all of the object's going to be the same. So I would say this is perfect, but if there's a lip like that, like a pot, you could have it darker there, that's a number 1. And I would probably say this would then become a number 1. And then here, maybe a number 2. Inside, it would probably be quite light because the light is shining there. So you might find that there would be maybe a number 2. Right, that would be the vase or the jug. And then if you think about the lemon, would be dark there perhaps, and then medium there. So we start with dark again. And again, you can shade this with a pencil. It probably looks better with a pencil, but you don't need to do the cross hatching. The cross hatching is just there to help you. Here, because it's light, you have quite a big chunky bit of dark. Gonna run out of ink in a moment. So this is your dark number 1. Nearly forgot. And then you've got your number 2. Now what you can do as well is rub out these guidelines. You don't need these guidelines, they're just to help you. The shadow is always your darkest colour, so it's probably almost darker than 1. Now if you think about the bottle, if you've got a label, the label's going to be a slightly different shade. So the label, if it's white and the bottle's black or dark colour, the bottle label might be a bit lighter. So for the sake of this video, I'm just going to do all that dark. And in reality, it wouldn't be all dark. It would be dark, and then when you get to that label, so when you get to this label, we'd do a number 2. But I'm just going to do it like that, just so you can see. As I say, I want to keep it quite simple, otherwise it starts to get a little bit complicated. Okay, now here, I want to do number 1. And then number 2. It's quite hard to do number 2 with a felt tip. And then maybe a bit of a number 2 there. So you can play around with it. It doesn't have to be exactly that. I would say up to here would be a number 1. So it's quite nice to just play around, think, because if we move the light this way, this would all be mirrored. So you wouldn't have this as a dark bit, you'd have it as a light bit here. So it would like turn it round almost. Now the cup, I would say it's quite dark. Because the light's coming this way, you would shine the light here, so this would be a number 1. And then the handle, I think we'd keep it as it is, but it's going to be really dark there, I reckon. So 1, 2. The table, it doesn't matter at the moment, because we don't want to get too detailed. But the table cloth, we could just do anything. Right, so that is literally, you'll take these lines off, you don't need these, and this will become super dark. Now, you've got to press really hard for that. So you've got to press really hard. You've got to press super hard for the shadow. Okay, so what you're going to need is, you've got to have it almost darker than 1. And if you can't get it darker than 1, that's okay. But this is my shadow. I'm painting it because I can't get it darker with my pen. But you've just got to bear in mind that your shadow is the darkest thing in your picture pretty much. Because it is a shadow. Doesn't have to be the darkest, but where the objects meet, then it has to be. So it doesn't have to be dark like there, but where you meet the shadow and the object, make it really dark if you can. And there we have it. There we have our drawing. Now, you could, if you like, you know, if the lights come in here, you could maybe have a bit of shadow there. Not shadow, you can have a little bit of, it's like number maybe 2 just there. And then because the light's all there, it will probably be quite light. You could have a background, you could have a pattern, you could shade it so you've got it quite dark there perhaps. It's up to you, but that is roughly what you're going for with the shading. And you can do this with a pencil, you can do it with a pen, you can do it with ink, you can do it with biro even. And as I say, it doesn't have to be cross-hatching. You could just do this. And then obviously, when you come to do it lighter, it's hard to do it with a felt tip, but you know what I mean, with a pencil. Normally you can find pencils that's a 2B, I'd say a 2B for your lighter one. I would say a 4B for your, I'd say 2B because you still want something there. It doesn't have to be as it is for the paper. You could do it super, super light. So you could have a 2B with the pencil, and you could have a 6B maybe and an 8B, because an 8B is like a cake. It's so nice because as you put it on, it sort of comes off really dark. I think I'll show you. Okay, so I've got a 4B here. Like, it's really nice the way it goes on. Beautiful shading pencil. And this HBs are quite hard, so they're not the best for shading. This is, I think I've got a 2B here. Yeah, the 2B is harder, so it's lighter. And then I should have an 8B. Ooh, there it is. I love the 8Bs. So this is your 8B. It's like you don't have to press as hard. They're water wash as well, which is cool. So you could perhaps, oh wow, that's kind of funky, isn't it? Because you can put water on them, and like a watercolour, that would be nice. So yeah, there we have it. There's your shaded, I would call it a pencil shaded drawing. It's pencil shaded observational drawing, or a pencil shaded composition, or a pencil shaded still life. But either way, you've shaded it in to show light and dark. You've got shades, which are pretty much tones. And there we are. So I will see you for the next video on how to incorporate colour. So you can shade it in pencil or just one colour, which is like a monochromatic thing. Whereas monochromatic is one colour and all different shades. So green, all different shades of green would be monochromatic still life. So the next video, we're going to do colour. So we won't have the shading, we'll shade it in colour. So join me for that. Hello again, Emmylou here. So I'm going to show you how to do a coloured shaded version of what we did earlier. So if you've done this video, this course, this video should I say, we're going to do the shaded coloured version. So it's kind of rendered. I'm going to render everything. So I'm going to make things with texture as well as colour. And it's going to be dependent on where the light comes from as well. So I'm going to do the light coming from here again, just so it stays the same for you, so it doesn't get more complicated. So say for example, the light comes from here, and we won't worry with the colour scale. And we might actually, do you know what? I'll draw a colour scale with 1, 2, 3 again. But just know that this is dark, so what I might do, it's not going to be an actual colour. So what I might do actually is, you know what, I'll do it with a pencil. So my number 1 is like super dark. Number 2 is kind of lighter than that. If you did a colour scale where you had green and you just started off dark, dark, medium, medium, light, light, it would look amazing how you could do it. So you could try that if you like. But just for the sake of the video, I'm going to do three shades of a colour. So say for example, let's start with the orange because it's easy, because it's an orange. So we're going to take, we could do 3 colours of the orange. So I'm going to take an orange, I'm going to take a yellow, I'm doing it in chalk pastel, but you could do it in anything. I just quite like chalk pastel. So I'm going to do a red, a yellow and an orange. Now, if you look at the light, my red would be my number 1, my orange would be my number 2, and my number 3 would be my yellow because it's the lightest. So whatever colour you have, can you see that? Whatever colour you have, you'll have a medium, a dark and a light normally. So we'll start with this. If you've watched the other video, you'll know what I'm doing. So this will be my dark, because the light can't get to this bit much, it's right at the top. Then I'll have an orange. Doesn't have to be a neat line, you could do a wobbly line if you like. Then I'll have my yellow. Now this orange might not look that orange because it's too light at the top, but you can manipulate it so you can add to it. You can fiddle with it, it doesn't have to stay as it is. And then you get your 1 finger if you're using chalk, and you're going to blend. So you're going to blend these colours to create a beautiful tonal, which means all different dark, medium and light of the colour. Can you see how it looks cylindrical? So it looks rounded, sorry, not cylindrical. It looks rounded. So what you could do is add to it. So you could think, I want this to be dark because you wouldn't see this much. And then there'll probably be more dark there. So you can add to it. But as long as you keep the 3 colours in mind, then it's helpful to understand. Right, let's do the lemon, because the lemon you'd think, well, it's yellow, but not necessarily, because you could have a light orange and a yellow. Now, let's think. If you're using chalk, you might have a brown that might be quite cool. So that's going to be my darker one. You don't want it to look like it's mouldy, so just be super careful. Now, remember where your light is, because it might not be the same for everything. Now, you want the lemon to be mostly yellow. So you're going to smudge the brown. Make sure you can't see the lines when you do it if you're using chalk. Now, if that looks too brown, you get more yellow. Because what you're using is you're using that as a key. It's like a guideline, but you don't have to follow it to the letter. Like you could use it as a guide, a simple guide. But because I feel like it's not as yellow and I want it more yellow, I'm going to put yellow on top, yellow on that bit. But then I kind of want this bit to be a bit darker to make it stand out. And under there, because if the light's coming this way, it's still going to be a little bit dark in there. So that's roughly my lemon, which I'm really quite happy with. The more the more you fiddle around with it, the more it looks 3D, quite realistic. My cup's going to be blue. So I'm going to take 3 different blues. You know what, I might even take a purple. So out of those 3, you can probably see what's dark, medium and light. So I would say this bit is super dark. Out of the 2, if you squint, I would say this bit's like my medium. And if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter. It's all part of the learning, and this is my really light. I'm going to do the handle mostly light. Inside here, it's really dark. Good thing about chalk is you can really, you can fiddle with it and just think, would that be dark? Would that be light? You'll start to see what works for you. Can you see how I'm smudging it? I do not want to keep this line if possible. So we're going to smudge or blend. I'd say smudge because it's just easier, but can you see the cup looks more cylindrical now? Right, let's do, It's nice to have a colour scheme where either you're copying from a still life that you set up in front of you, or you're just making it up in your head. It's nice to have lots of different colours. Not always, you don't want red, yellow, pinks, everything. It's quite busy and it's quite a lot to take in for your eyes, but you might like to have that as, let's just say blue and white. So I'm going to do, it will be blue. So this is all blue. Now I haven't done the shadow yet because what I'm going to do is this bit is going to be kind of blue, dark blue, because it's my number 1. Just do all my number 1 there. And then this then becomes my number 2. Haven't got much light there, so I could rub out if I like. Unless I want a number 2 to be this. But then you're thinking, well, what about this? So then you think, right, if this is white, I'll get a grey to be my number 2. And then I could possibly get, I've just got to try and find it because I haven't got all my colours. Let's have a look. I need a black almost to be my darkest one. So that's going to tie in with my blue. Does that make sense? That one's quite complicated because it's a pattern, but just smudge away or blend away. And it will look like the white isn't really white anymore, which is fine because you know it's quite white there. Now on the other video we did a lip, it would be darker there. So anything that's quite dark, you could just add it in there. That's as much as I think I want to show you because at the end of the day you don't need to do too much detail. Bottle, let's go. I want a dark green, So I'm going to get a dark green, a light green and a medium green. So keep it simple if you're just teaching yourself how to do tones. Otherwise it's just going to get way complicated. So let's do, I don't feel like I want to do the label like last time either. This is my number 1. Then I'm going to do, it's quite similar, my number 2. And then my number 3, the good thing about chalk is you can rub out and create light. I'll show you in a moment because it's really fun. Now again, if your label is white, maybe just don't colour it green. But I want to show you for the sake of the tones really. Now, this is roughly what you're looking for because the light is that way. You're going to put in texture. So if you think about an orange, it's going to have, the dimples on it. I mean, you could just draw these in, like you could do that. You don't have to. And then the lemon, we could probably do it with a brown maybe. So you could, so it's like the pores in the skin almost. So you could add texture. Now, what's really nice when you're using chalk is you can get an eraser and you can just add the light. So can you see I'm rubbing out and it's really cool because it kind of adds light where you might want it. You might not want it there, but you might want it there, you want it there. You might just want to add it everywhere that you think would be white, would be the light shining. So I'm just going to go on the top there. I could rub all of this label out if I wanted to, because chalk you can sort of rub it out. So I'm going to rub it out just in case you do want to do a label. And if the label is, if you want to write on the label and you want to shade the label in, I'd do it a bit like you did for the white of the vase. You'll just do that because it's still dark, but you've got the light bits. Now, because this is glass, it's quite nice to make it look like glass. So just carefully, though obviously the lid might be slightly different. We could do that brown maybe. Probably quite a nice dark brown I'd quite like, wouldn't you? There we go. Now we want to do the shadow as well. So you're going to get, I mean, I would go with a black to be honest. So let's have a look. If the light's shining roughly there, you're going to have that type of pattern because it's coming, I mean, probably more so if it was there, like that way maybe. But like I said in the other video, if the sun's like all the way on top of the sky, midday, you don't have much of a shadow. It depends where you are. But if it's kind of going down, you have a really long shadow. So we're going to just colour underneath. And it hopefully will help you understand that if there's a shadow, the shadow has to touch the dark bit normally, because that's where it's the darkest. Feel free to make the shadow go blurry as you go out, like that. You know, it doesn't have to have a thick shadow. And then what you could do, so if I look at mine, you won't have these black lines. So when I look at mine, I'd probably put some wording on there. So I could perhaps write vino, or just something, you know, I quite like it in another language because it looks more, I don't know, it looks quite exotic maybe perhaps. Then you can think, right, I want the tablecloth to be, I'm going to do it pink. So I'd have it quite dark there. Maybe some dark bits there. That's what's really awesome about chalk. And then just get one finger, try not to do your whole hand because it gets a bit messy. And then just smudge away, blend away. And then the backdrop, if you wanted to, you could create a window, or you could do everything to do with a background. So you could have the window, a chair, you can be as creative as you like. But what I would do is I love to do this. Whatever your background is and whatever the tablecloth is, make sure this bit's darker and it feeds into the table. So what I mean by that is that line's dark, or whatever colour you're doing, then it just blends in. Because it kind of, I think it gives the picture more depth. So it makes you sort of look into the picture. So there we have it. There is your still life observational composition. So have a go at maybe getting some objects at home. You could create a different setup. So for example, I've got a bottle of water there. I've got my water pot. I could have a cup from the kitchen. I could even do a plant. See how you get on with just simple objects. Fruit's always a really good one. And see how you get on. If you find that your lines are just being blurred and you can't see anymore, you could outline them. So say you're doing that in chalk, you could outline the darker bits in a darker blue and just smudge in and then go out of a lighter blue. So you can fiddle around with this for a while. But there we have it. There is your still life. Have fun with it and see how you get on, and I shall see you soon. Bye.